Finally, it is happening. Fremont is beginning to switch to producing refreshed Model 3s this week, says Bradford. And that's because in the US, you can now see that Tesla stopped offering old Model 3 test drives. You can only test drive a refreshed Model 3. It's not happening in Canada yet though. However, when I check Tesla's website, I don't see the refreshed Model 3. And the same thing goes for test drives. I thought maybe Tesla somehow knows that I'm browsing their website from Canada, even though I chose the US, but it allows me to enter a zip code, and I chose Los Angeles, and still the same thing. However, every single time, pretty much, we saw something weird happening with Tesla's website, it turned out, there was a good reason. About 2 weeks before the refreshed Model 3 was released in September, we saw little hints on Tesla's website, little bugs, so I think it is the exact same thing here. And if I read through all of the comments, there are other people saying that they saw the change too. And by far, this is the biggest giveaway that this is not a fluke, that this is not just a bug. All of the showroom locations near me have stopped accepting demo drives for the Model 3. All other models are still available to demo. Someone is probably getting fired, but it appears to me that the refreshed Model 3 is likely coming this month. Here are the latest delivery numbers from China. For the last week, we had 3,200. This is the current week, and this is in blue is the last quarter. So while the number certainly seems small, we have to keep in mind that in the beginning of the quarter, things are always slow, and we actually still did better than the last quarter. And the last quarter was a record quarter for Tesla in China, so we are doing very well. But I suspect that the market may not like that number. So if Tesla stock ends up being down today, that might be one reason why. Because sometimes the market can't even see the whole quarter, they just see this one little week. Probably pretty much every single vehicle that was produced in Giga Shanghai last week is going to be exported. If you look at December, you will see that almost no vehicles were exported. So naturally, you need to produce a lot more vehicles to be exported in January. The Tesla Model Y was the best-selling car in the world in 2023 according to Bloomberg. However, this conclusion is based on data up to the end of November, not the end of December, so it's better to wait a little bit longer, but I personally think that, definitely is going to be the world's best-selling car. I have seen many people say that Tesla supposedly officially already confirmed that the Model Y is the world's best-selling vehicle. For example, Rohan here said that Tesla does sell the best-selling vehicle in the whole world and in Europe. On his account, it says Tesla policy and BizDev, but how come there's no Tesla badge right here? Anyone that officially speaks for Tesla will have a Tesla badge in their account. But of course, not every single Tesla employee will have that badge. It just means that Tesla does not want that person to represent Tesla officially, I guess. So just keep that in mind. In the meantime, it is official that Tesla Model Y became Switzerland's best-selling car in 2023. In the US, Tesla now has bigger market share than Volkswagen, which is crazy. The market share for Tesla stands at 4.2, and Elon says the next milestone is 6.9%, obviously. I think Farzad has a pretty good point here. It's incredible how under the radar this is. Name me someone you know that doesn't know what a Volkswagen car is. Tesla with 100% EVs is now selling more cars in the US than Volkswagen. Folks still think that EVs aren't a thing and Teslas are niche, and they have no idea what's happening. That's with no marketing, and that market share number includes all vehicles in the US, including gas-powered vehicles. Individually, Tesla in the US now outsells Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, Subaru, Volvo, and Mazda. Soon, the list will include every single automaker. There is a debate going on X about Tesla stock. Gary went first. Interesting that Alexandra Mers and others are quietly moving toward my long-held position on FSD, just as Elon himself seems to be growing more cautious about it. Refers to it as supervised FSD. My position has always been FSD is a great technological innovation that can sell more Teslas, but should not be viewed separately to support an incremental robotaxi valuation, since it's unlikely to be approved for level 4, which means vehicles can drive themselves. Far ahead of competitor self-driving software, particularly Chinese self-driving software. My Tesla stock price target of $300 includes zero incremental value for robotaxi, ride-hailing, or Optimus. Contrast this to Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas price target of $380, which includes just $86 for core auto, $48 for energy, $82 for ride-hailing and mobility, and $115 for FSD and Dojo network services. And here's a chart that breaks down Morgan Stanley's valuation. Alexander says, LOL, me? Quietly? That would be a first for me. Dylan has a pretty good response. Regardless of what the Chinese are doing with autonomy, they are not doing it in the United States, leaving that market open for Tesla. Not making an argument on how FSD should or should not be valued right now, but I think implying that Tesla does not have a massive lead solving for generalized autonomy is a misinformed take. Which Chinese automaker is not using LiDAR, is not geofenced? I think to completely ignore robotaxi and ride-hailing and to include zero in the valuation for that in the long term assumes that robotaxis are never happening, that no company will be able to really do it. And if that's your take, I can certainly understand that take. But I would strongly disagree with the take that says, well, other companies will solve full self-driving, but somehow Tesla, which has the most data and the best team, they're just gonna get left behind. And they will never ever make any money from robotaxis or ride-hailing. Volkswagen announced today it's bringing ChatGPT into its cars and SUVs, so I guess voice commands will actually start working. Occasionally, ChatGPT can be pretty annoying because I ask it a question. For example, how do you build muscle? And it will say something like, oh, you gotta speak to your doctor. It really depends. I cannot give you anything. I cannot tell you anything. So just go speak to a doctor. Okay. ChatGPT, can you update my Volkswagen software? As a AI language model, I cannot update your car software, but I can tell you a joke if you want. I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but sometimes my experience with ChatGPT is a bit, don't tell me to talk to a professional. I know I can talk to a professional. I'm not talking to a professional because I'm talking to you, so you tell me what you know first, and then I'll talk to a professional. This morning, Tesla stock was down as much as 2.8%, and Gary says there's no clear reason why Tesla stock is weak today. China weekly insurance registrations were respectable, he says. Always low the first week of the quarter since emphasis is on exports to Europe, so that in theory should not affect anything, but you never really know with some traders being really short-term focused. But Gary says maybe investors feel other mega caps offer better upside downside and worried about what Elon might say on the earnings call. Still, India new factory announcement this week should be viewed positively. Based on the data from Cox Automotive, EV prices are now near parity with gasoline-powered vehicles. EV average transaction prices are now at roughly $50,800. Tesla's average selling price is $50,000. And an average gasoline-powered vehicle in the US sells for $48,800 roughly. But I think it's important to also remember that on average, EVs are smaller than gas-powered vehicles, so that number is not really going to be exactly accurate. But the trend is abundantly clear. The prices of gas-powered vehicles are going up and the prices of EVs are going down. And Volkswagen actually sells a few EVs now. Volkswagen delivered 394,000 EVs in 2023, accounting for less than 9% of total sales. Volkswagen's EV sales are up 21% year over year, so not a very impressive growth number, but not too bad. We know that Tesla really needs more 4680 batteries, and Panasonic says it still plans for a third US EV battery plant. It's expected that this factory would help Tesla with batteries, And the soonest that we might hear about this is gonna be April of this year. The value of X has fallen dramatically, but since Elon's acquisition, the company is fundamentally stronger and healthier. Everything is better except there are less advertisers. Which, if you think about it, that sort of improves the user experience, doesn't it? In the long run though, I think Elon will definitely win, and he will win big with X. As we grow user market share, says Elon, advertisers will have the choice of advertising on this platform or losing to their competitors. And James is even praising Elon. I'm very seriously looking into investing some money into X/Twitter. If you know of any way to do that, leave a comment down below. X is certainly attracting many media people. For example, Don Lemon show is coming to X. I know many of you probably don't like Lemon, probably many of you probably hate him, but I think it's good to have diversity on the platform. I don't think we want to have echo chambers, even if some of these people that come on, you completely 100% disagree. I think it's still good to see different opinions. I think the way you win is not by silencing other people, but by presenting your facts and then showing everyone that your facts are the right facts. You win with better speech, not censored speech. There's a giant feud going on right now between Mark Cuban and Elon Musk, and Mark Cuban is a racist, says Elon. I made a whole video about their feud on the other channel. Go ahead and watch it if you haven't yet. The link is going to be down below. But the solution for Elon is not to silence Mark Cuban or for Mark Cuban to silence Elon. I think communicating, debating, putting out where one is wrong or right is the way to go, I think. But Mark Cuban is losing this one badly. There's more drama going on. X has drawn criticism from mainstream outlets after an apparent ban wave today hit a number of prominent left-wing and journalist accounts. The affected accounts have reportedly not been given an explanation so far. It seems like these accounts were critical of Israel. Elon says, I will investigate. Obviously, it is okay to be critical of anything, but it is not okay to call for extreme violence, as that is illegal apart from the UN exemption, where officials from countries recognized by the UN can say what they say at the UN. For the record, I do not personally agree with your views. Nonetheless, the point of freedom of speech is allowing those whose views you disagree with to express those views. The Elon Musk and Mark Cuban feud is now too big to ignore. This explains Mark Cuban's ridiculous overcompensation regarding racism. Same thing happened with Me Too. Guys who got bussed suddenly became feminists.
I know I'm prejudiced. I know I'm bigoted in a lot of different ways. You know, and I've said this before, if I see a black kid in a hoodie at night on the other side of the street, bouncing, you know, I'm probably on the same side of the street, I'm probably going to walk to the other side of the street.
I can see someone that looks like a pope, but if they are walking in a hoodie late at night, I am going to walk the other way. You're just asking for trouble.
Let's be brutally honest here, right? Drugs are bad. Right? Yes. And I'm well known for not being a fanboy, right? I'm not a fan of Elon Musk himself. I'm a huge fan of his success in EVs, right? I think this has been known to people in government for many years. I first had a conversation with someone in a relevant entity about this more than 5 years ago. Mm. And I think that there are several other people that could have been highlighted in that article. So it smells like a hit piece, right? Why now is the bigger question. You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, given that Tesla's really executing. They're doing a phenomenal job at SpaceX. You know, and we can talk about real risks that don't have anything to do with Elon's recreational chemistry.
But even a Tesla bear says that these accusations and worries about Elon are basically nonsense. It's just a hit piece. You know, it is just indeed a hit piece.
But is there, though, a sort of overhang just in terms of some of that uncertainty, given the fact whether or not investors, shareholders should be looking past these recent headlines, but in terms of what that could then mean for leadership of the company down the line? How do you evaluate that as an analyst?
I think Elon Musk is the key man at Tesla. Mm-hmm. He's the key man at Tesla. You can put him in one of his rockets and send him to Mars. Mm-hmm. He's still the key man at Tesla, mm-hmm. right? So he is a colorful, creative character. He is known as being a difficult, charismatic man. And, you know, I think if he leaves Tesla, we have a big problem, right? He's the one that basically has been the creative drive behind this company. And I give him full credit for the success of the EV industry today. I think that Musk deserves tremendous credit for the success of the industry, and the industry is inevitable now, and that would not have happened without Musk.
Yep, I certainly agree with Craig here, but it's also important to note that even if Elon just completely disappeared from Tesla, I think Tesla for some time would actually still be okay. The culture would still remain the same. Maybe not as good, but it would still be fairly good for some time. I don't think Tesla would make the Optimus bot work anymore, or at least not to the same extent, but Tesla as a company would still be really strong, just like how Apple remained fairly strong even after Steve Jobs was no longer present. I just think Apple could have been a much bigger company if Steve Jobs was still around.
What are your biggest risks? By the way, you won euphemism of the day with recreational chemistry. But at the end of the day here, we got to think about what are the biggest risks to Tesla that you're kind of looking through and trying to evaluate here in 2024?
It's demand, right? Demand and obviously competition, right? So the Lightning most visibly cut its forecast in half. Sell side consensus numbers for about 22% growth, 20% unit growth, right? 20% revenue growth still seems a little aggressive, right? We're going to have continued price cuts. Ever since, even in the first quarter, everybody was saying that the second quarter would be the bottom. Well, no, it wasn't. This last quarter was not the bottom. I don't think that fourth quarter margins are likely to be particularly strong. I think they are quite likely to be weak, even though we did see a 5% beat on units. So we probably see continued margin weakness throughout this year as they put through price cuts. They deal with issues in China. Having BYD larger than them in China is a huge deal. That's their most important, most profitable market. They have fundamental structural challenges that they need to deal with, and it brings us back to, what are the strategic bungles over the last couple of years?
Craig's TipRank's profile rating is actually not that low. It's 1,230 out of 8,600 analysts. So I think it's not completely foolish to hear at least what he's saying. But his TipRank's Tesla stock history is hilarious. He was right 55% of the time, and yet his average return is minus 78%. He said sell Tesla stock right before that huge rally. So the moment he says sell, that's actually going to be pretty bullish, right?
And going off of that, what you just said about BYD and the fact that they did overtake Tesla, what do you think that signals, more broadly speaking, if we take a step back, not just about Tesla, but really about China's involvement and maybe leadership here going forward within the EV space?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very important question. They should have launched the mini car. They were supposed to have launched that, or at least made the decision to launch that in 19, and they punted, ostensibly because it would have been gross margin dilutive. Well, look at margins now, right? And then, India, they hemmed and hawed, from what I understand, about entering that market. So Times of India has confirmed there's a 500,000 unit facility that's going to get built. Musk has got to start making more noise about that. These are big structural challenges that if he wants to be the player with his 20 million units that he dreams about, I don't endorse that number. But to start getting there, he's going to have to do a lot better job internationally and then as far as diversity of offering.
Well, let's not forget that the Nissan Leaf launched in 2010. So because it launched first, it should have outsold Tesla's models, right? The Nissan Leaf outsells the Model 3, right? Based on Troy's data, Tesla sold 508,000 Model 3s in 2023. Nissan sold 650,000 Nissan Leafs actually since 2010. And the Model 3 came out in 2017. Am I thrilled that we do not have the next generation car yet? No, I'm not. But I'm just saying that just because it is going to come a little bit later, it does not mean that it will not absolutely obliterate the entire industry.
So I don't see a lot of scaling back of manufacturing per se. I think, the idea of maybe Shanghai going to 3 million units, we should consider that on hold. Shanghai will probably look to optimize its utilization at that facility. I think we should really look at, India. I think we should look at Mexico and potentially Canada. And how do they serve the North American customer more profitably? Yeah. Those, I think, are the most important questions.
I'm really curious about India. Troy thinks that it will be just an assembly plant. It's not really going to be a real factory, but that does not seem to be set in stone yet. And likely we are going to hear some more big news about Tesla's presence in India very soon. So I'm looking forward to that. As promised, I published an exclusive video on my other channel, the Clips channel. It's about Elon Musk's feud with Mark Cuban. Elon Musk actually called Mark Cuban a hypocrite, so go ahead and watch this video right now and make sure to subscribe to that new Clips channel if you don't want to miss any clips like this one. I think this clip, if I put this on here, this video today would have been 40 minutes long, and I don't think people really want to see 40-minute video, so that's why I put it on this channel.